These four religious orders had to have several steps in trying to figure out how to offer the faith to the people in the Philippines. First step was to persuade people in scattered settlements to transfer it to more compact communities. So you can see here a drawing of a community. Um, People were in scattered communities and they had to come together into more compact communities. Why? Because of course it's hard for the missionary to keep on going to several far-flung areas every week to teach them the faith. So he had to compel them to settle down in more compact settlements. So you can imagine here in this map, if the people were settled in all over the river coastline, it would be more difficult. So the missionaries had to compel them to cluster in these little towns that were founded along the Cagayan River system. So that made it more conducive for the people to receive Christian instruction. So they have to be within the earshot of the church bell so that they can know when to come for their instruction, religious instruction, and also go to the sacrament, especially to go to mass on Sunday. This natives, when they settled together, they of course had their own leader, which is actually the barangay captain. Now, the barangay captains among themselves, when they start coming together into closer communities, they have to elect among themselves what is called a gobernadorcillo or capitan. So, in the later period of the Spanish colonial rule, this is how the Filipino gobernadorcillos look like in their more dressy outfits. Second task for the missionary was to learn the language of the natives. So learning the language of the natives shows you that they had the tenacity to do that and the perseverance to do that, and also they had the cooperation of the natives because who else is going to teach them our languages of Pampanga, Bisaya, and Tagalog, and all the other languages that they had to use to try to convey the faith to the natives. So you can see here the use of the ancient baybayin to convey the faith. You can see here the Abaginong Maria or the Hail Mary in baybayin, written in baybayin on the left and written in Tagalog in the right. Third is they had to teach the people basic Christian beliefs. At present, we can see the Filipinos were attracted to Christ, the Christ child, the suffering Christ, and the Blessed Mother. These are the three most popular devotions in the Philippines. So, of course, it is not so easy to teach anybody about I believe in God, the Father Almighty, the Blessed Trinity, about the passion, death, and resurrection of our Lord. But you can see that you can also do this by images, by appealing to the people's emotions of care, of need, the need to be cared for by a mother, to be able to approach a child who is powerful but so approachable. And of course, to have that empathy of a suffering God, a God who also suffers with us. So these are some ideas which seem to have resonated a lot with us until now. During the first 50 years evangelization was done, the missionaries laid out stringent requirements for Filipinos asking for baptism. They were required to memorize the Doctrina Christiana. They were questioned about they memorized, and they had to conform to the standards of Catholic morality, renounce polygamy, ritual drinking, and usury. Fourth step is baptism. So here you have a photograph in the late 1800s of a boy here in the kneeling down here being baptized by a priest, maybe a Spanish friar. The conversion of the Dato contributed to persuade people to follow him, but there was no mass baptisms as happened among the Germanic tribes in Europe. Filipinos were not converted by the sword like the 8th century Saxons who were offered the choice of life or death by Charlemagne. Some missionaries rejected the presence of armed men in missionary expeditions, even for security purposes. So, what is this saying? The conversion had to be done by a process of persuasion because imposing the faith this does not really work effectively among the Filipinos. In fact, sometimes even if they're already baptized, they would still escape and try to go back to their pre-colonial beliefs. Step 5 is continuing instruction in the faith and sacraments. Even after they got baptized, the Filipinos found it difficult to maintain their faith. We can recall the pre-Christian beliefs were well entrenched. In matters of life, health, people still wanted to make sure to appease the spirits and consult the Babaylan and Catalonan, which you see on the right side. So this excerpt shows you how a person was converted to Christianity, but she went back to her old practices. Among other public penances, it happened that the woman of the Principalia, after having been baptized, returned to her witchcraft, and being effectively touched by the hand of the Lord while a religious was preaching, not only did she publicly confess her sin with incredible sentiment, but also making herself a living picture of the Magdalene, she threw herself at the feet of the religious with abundant tears and asked God for mercy. And removing the great amount of gold which adorned her neck and arms, she asked that these be used to return what she had taken from the people for performing witchcraft, and by her example, many witches were converted to the Lord. So you can see here that the religious leaders of our native communities found it difficult to give up their power and their practices. One last thing is that in the conversion of the natives, of course, the natives themselves help. One example is this person, Don Pedro Bucaneg of Bantay, Ilocos. Despite his blindness, he collaborated with the Augustinian friar Francisco Lopez in the first printed works on Ilocano and also preached in the streets. He would tell people about his parents, put him in a basket, and he threw him in a river. He was saved by a pious woman. He was raised by the priest and grew up to be exceptionally intelligent and eloquent. So you can see how it would be very difficult for a Spanish friar to be able to communicate with the natives, and we can imagine that there are actually natives like Pedro Pucaneg who helped them, who bridged them to the community. Another example is Doña Luisa Balinan, a member of the family of principals who carried on the assistance of her deceased brother had rendered as the main support of the church in her town and was a teacher and guide of his people. So she's another example of one of the natives who helped the friars accomplish their mission. I just want to end with this quote from Bishop Pablo David. The mere fact that we eventually repudiated colonial rule but continued to embrace the Christian faith even after we won the revolution could only mean that the natives did not equate Christianity with colonialism. At some point, the faith that they had embraced was no longer alien to them, it had succeeded in taking root on the fertile ground of our innate spirituality as a people.